Back to that quote, when you water the root of the tree, that water naturally extends to every leaf and every branch and every flower of that tree. So when you water your own roots, naturally your family, your friends, your job, your hobbies, everybody around you benefits. The water chemistry is H2O. It's the most abundant molecule on this planet Earth. It's really neat, actually, for being such a simple molecule. It's 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. But essentially what I wanted to show in this picture is that on the oxygen side, it's a slightly negative charge. On the hydrogen ends, it's a slightly positive charge. Because of these slight charges, we're forming hydrogen bonds, what they call, in between slightly positive and slightly negative. Not just other water molecules, but other molecules as well. All your salts, toxins, nutrients. Water can bind weakly to these molecules and carry them with them. So it dissolves salts with these bonds, and these bonds actually allow it to conduct electricity. So we are energetic beings. Everything in us is electrical. So it's through water that happens. In the body, there's 5 main functions: bringing oxygen and nutrients to every cell. So like we said, that positive and negative charge carries it to every cell and delivers it there. In the same way, it bonds to the waste and pulls it away from the cell to get it eliminated. Water regulates our body temperature, which is really important for survival. It lubricates our joints, and it absorbs shocks and the cofactor in metabolic and chemical reactions. Essentially, every single reaction that happens in your cell in your body requires water. So water forms the spine of hydration, and it dramatically changes the structure of DNA. And what you need to know is you're dehydrated, it changes that spine, and so your DNA is expressed differently. Also our microbiome. So we have more bacteria and virus and fungus cells in our body than our own cells. And so those little critters need a hydration as well. And so when we drink enough body water, when you have enough body water, they are hydrated as well, and they perform better to support our health. If you did a count of all of the molecules in the body, 99% of them would be water. By weight or by volume, water is about 55 to 75% of our body composition. There is no standardized, reliable test to accurately measure hydration. So we'll have scales, which you will have metal electrodes, and so I believe our blood pressure machine has it, our weight loss scales have it, where the scales will measure the electrical conductivity through the body. And so they're not standardized, but so each scale will have its own range for what hydration means. And certainly you can monitor change in hydration. So it's not just about putting enough water in your body, it's about delivering it to all the tissues that need it. So water is delivered to the tissues 2 ways: through the blood circulation and through the fascia. And then it's removed by your lymph system. So fascia, they've found recently through really tiny microscopic videos, is that it's actually really interesting and really intricate. And it surrounds every vessel and every organ. So it surrounds every nerve fiber. It surrounds every teeny tiny blood vessel. If you want to picture it, it's like a soaker hose that's surrounding everything in your body. And so it's essential for distributing water. So it uses a hydraulic pumping action. So your blood circulation uses your heart to move things around. Fascia uses your movement. So you need to be moving in order to move the water into your tissues. It can also use, interestingly, sound energy. And in addition to the fascia flow, the lymph drainage, so the vessels that run alongside your blood vessels, they also are dependent on movement. We tend to lose in a given day about 5 to 10% of our body water, and that works out to be about 2 to 3 liters. So that's where the recommendation to drink 2 liters of water per day comes from. So we lose it through our breath, through our sweat, through our urine, and our feces. And I love how autocorrect made it faces. Same thing, right? You should be urinating every 2 to 3 hours while awake. And if that seems like a lot, it is. But realistically, you should be intaking enough water to flush out your system and replace what you're losing. At night, antidiuretic hormone actually prevents you from having to get up every 2 to 3 hours while you sleep. So it does it by concentrating urine in the kidneys. But as we age, that production of that hormone decreases, and so that's why as you age, you get up more often, because your kidney's not concentrating the urine for you, your bladder's filling up, and you have to get up. Yeah. So for assessing hydration, like we talked about, there's not really any specific test. So there's 3 things we can do to watch. Number 1 is the color of your urine. It should be very, very, very pale, clear to light yellow. Noting that some vitamins and some medications will darken your urine. And certainly the first pee of the day is going to be darker because your kidney's been darkening it. Another thing you can do is pinch the skin on the back of your hand, and it should bounce back right away. That means you're well hydrated. You can put pressure on your fingernail for 5 seconds and then release, and the color should return in less than 3 seconds. If it takes any longer, or if your skin doesn't bounce back, chances are you're dehydrated. So the number 1 symptom of dehydration is fatigue and brain fog. So that afternoon crash, when you're tired, oftentimes it's dehydration. Other signs, headaches, migraines, dizziness. You actually sleep really poorly, and so then you're drowsy in the daytime. If you don't have enough water in your guts, you don't have enough water to break down your food, so it gets all constipated in there. You get all bloated because it takes too long to leave, and then the acid doesn't have anywhere to go, and so it comes back up on you. You're unable to lose weight. Oftentimes when you are dehydrated, you're thirsty, but you think you're hungry, so you eat more. Muscle stiffness, joint pain, and weakness are very common. Decreased immunity, so if you're chronically dehydrated, your body can't fight infection off. And that's partly because your lymph isn't draining as well. Dry skin, dry lips, dry eyes, dry mouth, dry throat, leading to bad breath and increased thirst. By the time you're thirsty, you are very dehydrated. So when it comes to fatigue and brain fog, actually, even a 2% drop in your hydration can cause significant effects on your on cognitive loss. So you can't remember as well. They've measured it in tests. And additionally, as little as 2% reduction in hydration level impacts the blood vessels the same way that smoking a cigarette does. They've also shown in clinical trials that even minor dehydration can make any minor and major aches worse. So it worsens your pain. So causes of dehydration generally narrow down to 3 things. You're not taking enough in, too much is being taken away from your body, or the water that you have is not being distributed. So inadequate intake is fairly straightforward. Increased elimination. So these days we're in dehydrating environments. Transportation in specific, airplanes are really, really, really dehydrating. One of the main kind of factors in jet lag is actually dehydration. We need about, I believe it's 50% humidity, and airplanes can be down to 1% humidity because of all the recirculated air. Electronics. Being just the physical electromagnetic field uses energy to deal with, as well as being overstimulated in our brain uses more water as well. Heating and cooling systems dehydrate us. Any synthetic fabrics, so polyester, the fabric on your couches, your carpets, your curtains, all those things are dehydrating you. Building materials, so if you don't have paint sealing off your drywall's dehydrating, wood is dehydrating. So being inside is very dehydrating. We eat a lot of foods that suck out our moisture. Alcohol, sugar, meats, cheeses, and caffeine are the prime culprits. And if we are not moving, our water isn't moving. And so the tissues that need the most aren't getting hydrated. So trauma, scarring, and inflammation all tighten up that fascia and don't allow it to distribute water. The highest risk populations are children because they are very active. And they use a lot of electronics these days, and they tend to eat junk food. Athletes and weekend warriors because they sweat, and elderly, many issues contributing to dehydration, not the least of which is decreased muscle mass. Muscles are actually our number 1 storage for water. So there's no reservoir when you're losing muscle mass. Sometimes mobility issues can occur, and so you're not moving the fluid around. Cognitive issues, decreased metabolism overall. Being sick, and then being on medications. There's a ton of dehydrating medications, right? So the consequences are staggering. Cardiovascular disease. They've shown essentially, all of these conditions have shown increased rates of disease or worsening of the symptoms of disease. So essentially with cardiovascular, if you want to think of it as thicker blood, there's not enough water in the blood. And the blood vessels themselves don't have enough water, so they have a decreased ability to constrict and relax. And so you have a higher blood pressure because the blood is so thick, and the blood vessels aren't able to adapt, so the higher blood pressure is damaging tissues in the circulation. In diabetes, your blood sugar is high, your body tries to pee out the extra sugar, and so you're urinating more, you're losing more of your water. And that concentrates the sugar in your, chronically concentrates the sugar in your blood, and so that causes more damage to your tissues. You also have thicker blood in diabetes, and that's part of the reason why the cardiovascular disease is associated with it. Digestive distress, like we talk about, your food is getting stuck in your belly, so it travels slower through the GI tract, and it causes more damage to the lining. Nice, soft, frequent bowel movements, not damaging the pipes. Hard, rough bowel movements, damaging the lining, causing inflammation, causing leaky gut. And then deep vein thrombosis, again, we have that thick blood. Thicker mucus in the airways contributes to asthma and COPD, as well as inflammation. You're not able to cough things up as easy. Dehydration has been linked to Alzheimer's, and low blood volume may lead to low blood volume in the brain. In the concussion situation, so if you're injured and you're dehydrated, there's less cushioning, and in fact, there is some evidence that a lot of the concussion symptoms are due to dehydration, or at least they're being worsened by dehydration. Chronic pain, if you don't have enough water, you have lactic acid and other cellular waste buildup. And also, there's an increased nerve activity when it comes to pain. So you have more waste collecting in your muscles and joints, and then your brain is sending off even louder signals when it comes to pain. So dehydration makes all pain worse. You have dry airways, and so you have increased snoring, and dehydration also leads to leg cramps and restless legs, so leading to insomnia. Dehydration has been linked to specifically colorectal, bladder, and lower urinary tract cancers. Obesity, again, thirst is often mistaken for hunger. So when people are actually thirsty, they're eating. So when you can hydrate optimally, you have better concentration, increased energy, better sleep. Everything moves through the body better. You actually lose weight. Improved flexibility. So you have better range of motion, you decrease your bloating and swelling, healthier skin, and overall decreased inflammation. And inflammation is linked to a lot of different health conditions. So we're into the fun stuff. We're motoring along here. So principles of rehydration. Number 1 is to drink for maximum absorption, not just water. Number 2 is to get more water from food. And number 3 is to use movement to distribute hydration. And so, drinking for maximum absorption, what does it mean? It means first thing in the morning you drink a big glass of water, 8 to 16 ounces, so about a half liter of water. And then before each meal, you're drinking about a cup of water, 6 to 8 ounces. So if you do the math and you have 3 meals a day, that is only a liter of water. Right? So we're not replenishing that 2 to 3 liters just with water alone. You want no more than a half a cup of any liquid within 1 hour of bedtime. So if you have a cup of tea to calm you down or a warm cup of milk before bed, no more than half a cup. And definitely skip the nightcap. Alcohol, a number of reasons, but alcohol is not an effective nightcap, and we'll cover this in 2 weeks, but it doesn't put you to sleep, it just knocks you out, and you go into this light sleep that doesn't actually restore you. It's also very dehydrating, so skip the nightcap, and so you're really front-loading your day with tons of water. Recommended to avoid bottled water. I mean, if you're at the PNE and you've got nothing else, you have to do what you have to do, but bottled water has some interesting statistics. It takes 3 liters of water to produce 1 liter bottle of water. It costs as much as $10 per gallon versus pennies for tap water, and 14% of all litter comes from beverage containers. So in addition, there's more and more evidence that those microplastics are ending up in bottled water. Use filtered or spring water. Don't use distilled water. It has no minerals in it, and we need those minerals. So we have pretty good water here on the Sunshine Coast. I don't really know any of areas that we really need to filter, but a lot of people do for taste. Spring water still has the minerals as well. Add a pinch of natural salt. So sea salt, Celtic salt, rock salt, or the pink Himalayan salt, and that adds those trace minerals. So when we add salt to the water, it helps the body absorb it better. We need those minerals. Adding a squeeze of lemon is really great too. It changes the pH slightly to more alkaline, and it also adds a little bit of taste to the water. So to increase hydration even more versus plain water, so you take 16 ounces of water, and you can add ground chia seeds. And so, does anyone use chia seeds at all? Yeah, so if you don't grind them, they form this lovely little tapioca pudding type thing, which is great too. But if you grind them up, they can actually be mixed into your drinks. And so chia seeds are actually this biohack, if you will, of creating a slow release water from your guts. So it's a great way, and actually if you do like to have a beverage near the end of your night, if you add chia seeds to it, it'll make it a slow release form in your belly. So you can add a teaspoon of honey plus some herbs. You can add 10 berries of any kind, frozen or fresh, and even a splash of balsamic vinegar for taste. Maple syrup and some ground turmeric is a really nice one as well. And like I said, these are like 1 teaspoon, half a teaspoon. So it's just a hint of flavor, and the minerals and the glucose in it can help with the hydration. And so a half to 1 inch piece of ginger diced up, or if you can find it, beetroot powder or pomegranate powder. I thought was really interesting. Bulletproof coffee, and essentially what it does is it slows down the absorption of caffeine. It also, so what happens is you take your coffee, you add some grass-fed butter or ghee, and it's important that it's grass-fed because it has this specific butyric acid, which is way healthier for you than grain-fed butter or ghee. And so you take that, you take some medium chain triglyceride oil, which is essentially refined coconut oil. Throw that into a blender and whip it up really fast. It turns it into like a latte type feel. Chamomile and licorice teas are extra hydrating. Avoid beverages high in sugar, including natural sugars, so orange juice, dehydrating. Diet pops, dehydrating. So water from plants hydrates more effectively than any tap water. So, and anytime you eat a plant, it's hydrating. The water in plants is purified, it's alkaline, it's mineralized, it has electrolytes, it is rich with nutrients, it's structured, which we'll go over, and it's energized. So we know the 3 phases of water, right? Solid, which is ice, liquid, which is water, gas, which is steam. There's actually a 4th phase of water that they've identified. And essentially what it means is that the water molecules are all lined up with their charges. They are better able to conduct electricity. They are better able to be absorbed into our cells. So the water in our cells and the water in plant cells are already occurring naturally in this state. So when you drink water that's in this 4th phase, this gel phase, your cells can more easily assimilate it. But it's interesting because for example, it uses sonic frequencies to create this structure in the water. So if you ever do like a sound bath, or you're around singing bowls or gongs, or even chanting or singing, the sound waves actually reorganize the water in your body to better conduct electricity. Neat, right? Wow. Infrared light reorganizes the water in your body to better conduct electricity and nutrients. Cool, hey? So these are your top vegetables, and I was surprised by a couple, like cauliflower. I didn't ever think of as hydrating. It feels dry to me, but it apparently has tons of water. Same thing with spinach and carrots. I wouldn't have necessarily thought of them as hydrating. So a lot of really tasty things up there. Of course, celery we know has a lot of water, romaine lettuce. And then for fruits, star fruit's #1, but watermelon, I think everyone could have guessed it was going to be on this list. All your berries, pineapple, cantaloupe, kiwi, apples, pears, and grapes. Grapefruit is the top citrus one, but just be careful if you're on medications. Make sure you check your bottles for that yellow no grapefruit sticker. So lots of tasty options to get your water. So if you do one thing to rehydrate, drink 1 green smoothie per day. Nutrients are 90% bioavailable in a smoothie. It's juicing is also a great idea too, but smoothies are better hydrating. They've got the fiber in it, which kind of in your belly acts like a slow release hydrator. It also is roughage for your guts. It feeds your microbiome, the fiber, which we know is good for us. It helps to detoxify, so fiber binds with things in the guts and flushes it out. And it also decreases your hunger, so you're less likely to eat, junk food. So these are the key components of your smoothie. So leafy greens or other veggies. A lot of people use spinach or kale, or you can even use some herbs like mint. A little bit of fruit for sweetness, but you definitely want to lean towards the veggies more than the fruit. Healthy fat in the form of avocado, oils or nuts, so like hemp seed oil is a really great option, flaxseed oil, avocado oil even, and you can even soak some cashews and then whip them into your smoothie. A little squeeze of lime juice or lemon juice, or some raw apple cider vinegar, and the raw is important because it's got the mother in it. It's a good probiotic. A little pinch of sea salt or Himalayan rock salt. You can grind up some chia seeds and add them to that. And at the end of it, about 1 to 2 cups of filtered water. Other foods you can enjoy. So when you eat fruits, choose the low glycemic ones. And so what that means is you get the lower peak of the blood glucose in your body. So berries are great. Peaches, plums, grapefruit, kiwi, and melon. Greens and veggies, whenever possible, go organic. Organic tends to be, the soils tend to be nurtured with more minerals. So you get like your chromium, your selenium, your copper, your manganese. Less pesticides as well. Anytime there's pesticides, your body has to deal with it with water. Soups are great. So especially homemade stews and bone broths. You get the gelatin, you get the collagen. So, you get a pot of water, you add all these veggies and some proteins, and the soup will retain all the minerals in it. It will retain all of the nutrients in there. And so, you can use an immersion blender if you prefer it smooth. Bone broths are fantastic, especially if you have any sort of leaky gut issue. They're prebiotic. They support the healthy microbiome. They're an amazing way to rehydrate, especially in the winter. And you can even make cold soups in the summer. Nuts and beans are great. You definitely want to soak the beans first. Wild caught fish, it's high in omega-3. So, and omega-3 is important for the cell membrane to allow water to permeate easily. Spices like black pepper, cinnamon, cardamom, and turmeric can also increase hydration. Foods to avoid. I just summed it up by processed foods. Anything with a ton of, if it had to be made by a machine, essentially. Simple carbohydrates like bread and pasta. Anything that you can picture that turns into a paste is dehydrating because the water has to go in there and break it up. Any added sugar and fake sweeteners are super dehydrating. And trans fats, which are not very common in Canada anymore, and any hydrogenated oils, so margarines, can be really dehydrating. Use movement. So if you remember from 2 weeks ago, the blue zones, one of the things that they do is they move naturally. So a quick recap, the blue zones are 5 areas in the world where they live beyond 100 routinely. And in those areas, they move naturally. They don't have a lot of machines to do their gardening, to do their housework. Even into their elder years, they're moving, they're doing chores around the house, they're repairing things. They are walking to the market, they are constantly moving. So it doesn't take, like I said before, training for a marathon or pumping iron in the gym or doing CrossFit. Just moving naturally moves the water in your body. Yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, and Qigong are movement exercises that are extraordinary for moving, for stimulating the fascia, and so distributing the water to all your tissues, like that soaker hose. So anytime you do like twisting, it's like you're wringing out a rag, right? So the fluid is movement, the squeezing is very important. Proper posture. So for every inch forward that your head hangs, there's 10 more pounds of pressure on your neck, on your spine. So having proper posture where your skull is directly above the cervical spine. So in yoga, we talk often about there's a string coming from the top of your head and it's being pulled up. You want to increase the space in between the ribs and the hips, nice and tall. And shoulders are back, but not like forced back. They're nice and rolled back. Every hour, you want to stand for at least a minute. Micro movements are stretching, twisting, even tapping. So morning routine, nodding the head, and I'm talking like 3-4 times. So simply nodding your head 3-4 times. Drawing circles with your chin, starting small and going big. Drawing figure eights with the chin. Right, both directions. And then figure eights with your nose, slightly different. Ear to the shoulder. And you can go straighten up and go back. Right, about 3-4 times. Turn your head to the side and nod. And then the other side. And then you can bring your bent elbows behind the back towards touching. We can do this, right? Yeah. You can spend 5 minutes. You get up in bed and you nod your head a few times, right? You can do this. Anyone can do this. And it just, for your upper body, so in the morning you're working the upper body. You're just moving the circulation. You're getting blood and water and fluid and nutrients up to the head, waking you up. After your noon routine, it's more of the lower body. So twisting the shoulders to the side, you can use a desk. So if you picture this as a door frame, you can twist this way, back and forth. If you grab this side, some of you can't do that because you have arms, but if you grab the sides of the chair underneath you and then straighten up, you can straighten up through the torso, and that's creating that space in between the hips and the ribs. If you're sitting down, or standing up, sitting down, lift the leg and roll the ankle, one direction and the other direction. And if you're standing, you plant the heels and then you lift your toes a few times, right? So these are all just a couple minutes each. Other hydration tips. So this is something apparently they use in some nursing homes, is they give people 2 straws instead of 1. Obviously paper straws.
Or metal.
Or metal. There we go. Bamboo. Using 2 straws to drink instead of 1 actually doubles your fluid intake. Simple, but yeah, you wouldn't necessarily think about that, right? Consider an elimination diet. So especially if you're having a lot of gut symptoms or any inflammation, at the same time you're rehydrating, these things cause the most problems in the body, like in terms of allergies and intolerances. And when you have an allergy or intolerance, guess what's dealing with that to eliminate it? Water, right? So if you can consider an elimination diet. If you do that, talk to your doctor or work through it with a healthcare practitioner. An omega-3 supplement strengthens all the cell walls and makes it more permeable to water, makes them soft and supple. Very hydrating oil, essentially. And fermented foods, anything with probiotics or fermentation, so sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, they bind toxins and byproducts in the guts and help you flush them out. And it supports your healthy microbiome, which we know is also hydrating. Spend more time outside in nature, right? Especially on the ocean, right? You all know how good you feel walking beside the ocean, that wind, the moisture in the air. Out in the forest, the trees will hydrate you, the plants will hydrate you. You're not around electronics, you're not around synthetic materials that suck the water right out of you. Spending half an hour even going for a walk outside in nature can do massive benefit for you. If you're stuck inside, having a little potted plant or essential oil diffuser or even cups of water at your workstation, even if you don't want to drink it, a cup of tea that's letting off steam and just holding it up and inhaling the vapors can be really hydrating. And you want to do dry brushing. Yeah, really interesting. So you get just like a little brush that you strap onto your hand, and usually natural bristles. And starting from your limbs, you brush towards your heart. It exfoliates the skin, which enhances the skin's blood circulation and the lymph drainage. It stimulates your nerve receptors. It provides pinpoint compression, and it pushes fluid through the fascial network. Massage, just another reason to book your massage. It obviously the compression and stimulating the fascia. So we all know how good we feel after a massage, right? But you can even do self-massage. So starting with your hands, just rubbing your palms, rubbing your face, giving yourself a little, yeah, your lower legs or your feet can feel really nice. And if you have access to an infrared light sauna that forms that cohesive gel-like water, which will transmit energy and nutrients better through your body. Travel hydration. So one of the most dehydrating things we can do is fly. So recommended, so we need 50% humidity in the air. Airplanes are maximum 20, sometimes down to 1% hydration. So drink 8 ounces, a cup of water for every hour of flying. You're gonna have to pee, and that's fine because you need to get up and move anyway every hour. Ask for an aisle seat or for forgiveness. Avoid the alcohol, super dehydrating. You can snack on seeds. They are like slow release moisture. Have proper sitting posture. It's really easy to slouch down in those airplane seats, but as often as you can, sit up nice and straight. Get up and move. Go to the bathroom once per hour. Do your micro movements there, right? You can do your head nods and your self massage there. And aloe vera is actually a really great way to hydrate your hands and face. Because oftentimes, you're wearing clothes, and so those are the areas that are exposed to the air. And so if you use an aloe vera cream, you can help reduce the loss through your skin. So when you exercise, it's a bit of a pain in the butt, but if you're not sure if you're having enough water when you exercise, you weigh yourself before and after your workout. You're not losing fat, I'm sorry, you're losing water. So when you're well hydrated, when you've had adequate water, you only see plus or minus 1% change in your body weight. So if you're 150 pounds, you should be within 1.5 pounds of your starting weight. Seriously dehydrated is 5% or more. But anywhere in the middle is you're not drinking enough. Add a little sea salt to water to avoid the hyponatremia, which is low sodium. So one of the risks we have of just drinking tons and tons and tons of plain water is that can actually lead to death. We totally dilute the sodium in our bloodstream, which is necessary for us to live. And so when they see actually problems at marathons, approximately 10 to 15% of them is actually people with this hyponatremia, low sodium. They drank too much plain water, and they literally drowned their insides. So adding a touch of sea salt helps to avoid that. Any workouts greater than an hour need a little bit of sugar and a little bit of electrolytes. And instead of getting, the sports drinks, you can make your own. 8 to 12 ounces of plain or coconut water with a pinch of natural salt, a squirt of lemon juice, and a teaspoon of honey is the perfect replenishing, hydrating sports drink. And fairly low cost too.
Thank you.
Thank you.